One big takeaway from the 2024 election, a lot of people didn't feel comfortable saying who they plan to vote for and still do not believe they can be honest about their choice. But until we can do that, there is no way we can bridge the divide that keeps us from talking to one another. I'm so excited for this conversation. Joining me now, my friend Tim Shriver, the founder of Unite, a group focused on bridging the political divide. He's also the co-creator of the Dignity Index, an 8-point scale that measures how we talk to one another when we disagree. There's never a better time to talk to you, and I'm glad you're here. You wrote something that stuck with me. After this election, the number one thing we need to do is reject the idea of contempt. What does that mean?
Well, I think we're living in a culture of contempt, and politics is one of the primary purveyors of contempt. So we're all stuck thinking that the only way to get something done to advocate for our position is to hate or dehumanize the people on the other side of an issue. And when you're living in a culture of contempt, it can feel normal to say horrible things about people, apart from their positions, just to say that they're horrible people. The challenge we have now that the election's over, elections are about winners and losers. Countries are about how we build each other up, how we solve problems, how we heal relationships in our families. Stephanie, the best data we have suggests that about 100 million Americans have ended a relationship with a loved one, either their family or a very close friend. That's unsustainable. Our mental health in a culture of contempt is unsustainable. So, there's a moment here now where we know who won and we know who lost. But that doesn't stop us from figuring out how we can actually treat each other with a great deal more dignity as we try to solve problems going forward.
We know who won and we know who lost. And the polls were neck and neck. Yet when the results came in, tons of people were shocked to know that their friends, their neighbors, their loved ones did vote for one candidate or the other. How much of a problem is that we can't even tell one another our political views? Because if we do, we'll make the worst assumptions and say the most terrible things.
Because everybody's worried about free speech, and we should be. This country should always defend free speech. But the biggest threat to free speech today is contempt. We're afraid we're going to get canceled. We're afraid we're going to get demonized. We're afraid we're going to get labeled. We're afraid we're going to get scolded if we say what we think. I'm not saying that all positions are valuable, but I'm saying that the way we treat each other is actually a separate variable from what the person's position is. I could disagree with you on your policies, on your programs, even on the outcomes. I don't have to demonize you. When I do that, I shut you down. When you do it to me, you shut me down. That's a cancer. It's almost like a metastasis in the system. We've got to figure out how to stop that, to quell that impulse to hatred and demonization, and elevate dignity.
Here's where the cancer spreads, though. The election's over.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say a lot of people who didn't vote for Donald Trump, who voted for Kamala Harris, despise him, detest him. But now we're in this moment where he's the president. How do we get to a place where we should want all Americans to want the country to win? And for the country to win, one would argue the president has to.
Well, I don't know.
That's really tricky. Or maybe he doesn't.
I don't know if the president has to win for us to win. We've had many presidents over the history of this country. We can't let our hope be a prisoner of politics.
Say that again, because it's so important.
Well, I just think, we don't have to invest all of the hope, the soul, the spirit of this country in our politicians. They deserve our respect and our attention, but they do not command the way we believe in ourselves, in each other, in others. This country has a great tradition of citizen activism, some of the greatest social change movements in this country were not led by politicians. They were led by citizens. They were led by faith leaders, civic leaders, cultural leaders, artists, creatives. Why do we give our hope, the most tender part of our soul, if you will, why do we give that away to a political election? They don't deserve it right now. Honestly, they don't deserve the spirit that we need to change the country. I don't care how progressive or how conservative you are. You've got hopes and dreams for the country. Yeah. Don't give them away to someone else. Bring them back to life and trust yourself and trust others. Just a little bit. Maybe just baby steps would get us on the right
Okay,
foot.
Then I'm going to give you a difficult, practical one. Because people are watching you and I saying, yeah, I'm so mad at this family member. I'm so mad at this colleague, I can't look at them. Members of your own family spoke out against Robert Kennedy when he was running for president and said, this is a bad idea, don't vote for him, and said a lot of negative things in their view as a public service, right?
Yeah.
And now Donald Trump is looking to make him HHS secretary. What do you do with that? What do you say?
Well,
to
I think
him?
there's
That's
two
your
things.
family.
First of all, if you're feeling despondent and and beaten down, that's okay. You got to trust those feelings. Let's not try to run roughshod over the fear and pain a lot of people are feeling. I'm not suggesting you should just put on a happy face and pretend nothing happened.
But you also shouldn't shut down in a dark hole.
But you've got to move through it. We all have to move through it. If you have a loss, you're sad. No one should tell you not to be sad. But people will try to support you in coming back, however long that might take. We've got to get on the comeback. It doesn't have to happen today, but we've got to eventually, pretty soon, get on the comeback trail. With respect to my family, look, I hope what everyone heard was many members of my family do not agree with my cousin Bobby's points of view. I don't agree. I've been in conversations with Bobby for 10 years about health issues. We agree on some, we don't agree on others. But I don't think you heard anyone say that Bobby was a bad human being. I don't think you heard anyone say that Bobby should be treated with contempt. I don't think so. And I certainly don't believe that. And so people say to me, well, if he moves to Washington, you're inviting him over to your house? Absolutely. He's my cousin. His mom just died. We have a whole life in common. I don't agree with a lot of what he's doing right now politically, but I'm not giving away my family to politics.